Okay, so what we were going to talk about now is the keywords search and a vendor to employee name searching, and talking about a main and subroutine, but also a more, uh, let's say, a more extensive type of, I guess, join within ACL. So we're basically going to be joining across two different files. So that's how we'll work on that. And the key statement, although it's a little hard to read, it's a little easier now in ACL to read this. You basically are going to kind of create two blank fields, and on those blank fields join the files. And in this case, the key here is that we're actually selecting a file input search through ext dot search through field converted. What that's going to do is it's actually going to kind of like join the file, but do an if statement where it's looking into the file, the secondary file that it's joining with. So in this case, the secondary file is called input search through ext, and it's going to kind of search through that file, that secondary file with this main file. So a little bit more complex of a script routine, and something that I wanted to show you in ACL just so that you could see a little bit more of an advanced type of technique being used in a scripting type fashion. There's a couple of different ways that this can be done. There's a text matching script, and we'll talk about how this works. And actually, let me run it first because I think this is kind of a cool one to run for you. So we're going to run this one, and we're going to select, what are we going to search through? We're going to search through the vendor master file in this case, and using the vendor master file, we're going to then search through it. Notice here the vendor master file shows up top here. We'll talk about that in a second. We're going to search through that. Basically we're going to select the vendor name field. Okay, so that's the field that we're going to search through. Then what are we going to search on? We're going to search on the employee file. So we're going to use that, I guess on through the other one. And we're going to use the last name. So does the employee last name show up in a vendor master file listing anywhere? Let's hit that OK button. And sure enough, let me just kind of make this a little bit bigger. So now Friedman is now Friedman Consulting, Jacobs, Eric Jacobs, Cox, Cox Executive Supplies. So these are how we've taken this field here and searched through this other field here. And notice we have the search on field converted and the search through field converted here. The search on was in the secondary table, and the search through was obviously in the primary table. So again, when you look at this, this particular statement here, so well, it's probably better to look in ACL. You can kind of see how this is utilizing both fields in this type of join statement. Okay, so let's go to that, and then let's go to this text matching script. So the first dialog box asks you, what field do you want to search through? And this is a good thing to show you for our later discussion on dialog boxes. Notice we have input search through. That's the variable being created, and it's being selected from tables. So input search through, it's the variable being created. When I go down to this dialog here and open it up and click on this, notice what is in that edit box but input search through. So this edit box here, what we've kind of automatically done is put as a variable the input search through in there. So it's going to automatically show up there. Now, I guess you could change it there, but in the most part, it's just going to come up as a box that you can change. And that was this edit box here. It's then going to search through field, and that's the search through field here. And it continues onward where this was the search through, this is the search on type work. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to create a blank field in both tables. So it's going to create this blank field through, it's going to create a record number, and then it's going to convert the search through field, which is the vendor name field, by all trimming it and setting it to more of an upper type of a situation. And then it's going to extract the blank field, the record number through, the search through, converted to a new file called input search through. And the reason I do this extract statement of just a few key fields is a couple of reasons. One, the record number noted, like all of these fields are more in a calculated format, which I don't really like. You know, I always like to kind of fix them in ACL. So now it's a fixed field, one blank space, a fixed field, the record number. You know, it's something where it's now, just to kind of show you in the data what I mean by fixed field, that it's in there. It's in that data now. It's not some calculation that we've created here, like some calculated field. It's actually in the data. Also, the data file is a lot smaller. So just as a script best practice, if you're about to do a very large join between two files, that it's a really good idea to kind of do so with this concept of keeping the files as small as possible, because the smaller you can keep the file, the easier the join will work, and etc. So with that said, what we can then do is it will then open up the input on, which was the employee file, and do the same thing. And then what it's going to do is it doesn't really matter so much at this point, but I think we do this on some purpose. This is kind of the key statement. It goes back to, why is this the most key statement here? The first thing is that the key points are that it's a many-to-many search or join. It's a many-to-many join on a blank field. So it's a blank field, many-to-many search. When you have a many-to-many search on a blank field, what that's going to do is it's going to create a file of every record matched up to every record. So again, imagine this massive file now of every record matched up to every record called search file 1. Now the good news is it's only going to do this if, and that's where we get to this part, if when searching through, basically taking that search on field, in this case, let's just take the search on field from the employee file. Let me just kind of open up one of these. So it's going to take the word COX, and it's going to take COX, and if it says if it finds COX throughout that file in the secondary file, again, this is the kind of noting now we're looking into the secondary file and searching through that vendor name field. So it's only, even though I'm going to be doing this many-to-many join of every field to every field, I'm only doing it when there's a match of COX in that vendor name field. So in this case here, where COX matches somewhere in here. It doesn't have to start out with it. It's just, it's somewhere within that particular field, and that's why we use the find function here. So again, a little more complex because we're doing many-to-many joins. I'm doing it on a blank field, which is kind of weird because it's going to create this massive file. But once I've done that, I then figure out, what are all of the matches in this case. And then I can take those matches and join it back to the original file to figure out which are all the records that we kind of match up here. And then we can do the same thing with the employee file and kind of get all of the ones that are matching up here. But in this case, what we're then doing is we're taking the all of the fields from the vendor file and matching it up with all of the fields in the employee file, and that's this is kind of figuring out what were those matching record numbers in the through, and let's kind of match those up, and then which are all the record numbers in the on, and then match that up as well based on this search file 1 and 2. So that's going to end up getting you this final table here that has all of the employee fields matched up to all of the vendor fields. Last but not least, we then delete all of my temporary files, and probably we talked about this in previous discussions. But I always like to clean up after my batch. After my scripting, I like to figure out what are all the new fields that I created, what are all, and delete those from the original tables, what are all the tables that I should be deleting and all of the formats that I should be deleting. And ultimately, you can open up the final file if you'd like, and then setting, say, safety to on or safety off, depending on what you want to do from this point forward. So again, this is kind of showing a lot of different techniques and something to refer back to. What I now want to do is kind of take this one little step forward, if you could believe that, and we're going to go into the keyword searching. So now, that we're in this keyword searching, what I'm going to do here is actually create a table of keywords, which I've done, and I have that in my test input files. You'll get this table as well. I don't know how good this is, but it's my best attempt at coming up with words that look really weird to be in general ledger or accounts payable files: casino, cash, consultant, drug, eBay, etc., flowers, etc., etc. Some other funny ones in here as well. So, you can take a look at that. And what we end up doing here is in this keywords script is we use a very similar technique than we just used before, but in this particular case we're going to look through 3 fields and we're going to use the same technique that we talked about, where we're going to kind of search through and on, and then we're going to do these 2 final joins at the end to ultimately kind of get all of the answers. So let's kind of quickly walk through this and try to show you my best attempt at coming up with some decent variable structures. So here I have the invoice input file. I probably should have put a V underscore T for table, but then we have the paid invoice file. There we have V underscore IH for invoice header, and then the vendor name equals vendor name, invoice number, and vendor address. And all of this relates to the paid invoice file. So if you take a look at this paid invoice file, you'll notice the field names as you cut across here are things like vendor name and invoice number and etc. So that's all listed out there. And vendor name, invoice number, vendor address. Then what we're doing is we're opening up the keywords table that we just opened up a second ago and setting the keyword field equal to keyword. And again, if I open up that table, just bear with me, you'll notice here the field name is called keyword. Okay. Now that I have that, pretty much follow the same logic. The only thing that I do though is I create a computed field that adds together, bear with me, the vendor address, the invoice number, and the vendor name that were all in that paid invoice file. So I just kind of like put it all together because I'm looking, you could add together 10 fields, right? I mean, have a description field, other, purchase order description field, all of these different fields to be put in here. But what ACL is then going to do is, based on this join that it's going to complete, is it's going to search through every one of those fields as one big field. And I did that on purpose just to make it one field. It's a lot simpler for my script to have one field that I'm searching through. Again, same technique, create the blank fields, join on the blank field in a many fashion. Again, it's a many to many. So every record is joined up to every record, and that's going to create that key field search one table, which in this case, I believe all I really need to do is join that up with the invoice input table based on that record number field. And with that said, once I have that key search field, what I'll do is I'll break my program right here. So we're just going to put the word break there, and then you could kind of see what's ultimately going to come out of this one. So let's go to this keyword script. I'm going to run it through. It gets to the word break, which is appropriate, and it created a file called keyword search 01. And what that is a table structure that has the record number within the invoice or the paid invoice file for every time it found something weird, like the word freight or equipment or charity or what else do we have in here? I think that's about it. That it found, and it has those record numbers. Then it takes that list of record numbers and joins it back to the original table. Bear with me. To that original table, and in this case, being able to then identify all of the potential items that have been found. Let me just find that join there, and again, just starting with the original table and then joining on the invoice input. And then from a fields point of view, it's going to bring over from that keyword search table the keyword that it looked through, the actual the actual field that was calculated, the record number, and then it'll also then join with that paid invoice file and get all of that as well. And that's from this point forward is in the script. So let me just copy this part here to a new script. Keep it simple here, and I'm just going to copy that to here, and then I'm just going to run that new script. And that completed kind of the last portion of my work here that I needed to complete, and then that basically gave me the outputs for this analysis. So let me just so here is the keyword AP01 keyword search. Again, table AP01 being kind of the first work paper that we produced. We have then the keyword, did it search through to find that, the record number, and then every field from the paid invoice file then lined up next to that over on the right.